Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh. This is Native Nomads, and today we are going to be working on installing the skid plate setup combo that I got from Rallitek. I could not find a suitable video on the internet that would kind of help me along in this process. So, in the other side of the garage, I have the front plastic covering, all that stuff torn off. I did take video of that, and I will overlay everything here. If you guys are new to the channel, then you don't know, I hate doing install videos. And the reason is I'm trying to do something and learn something at the same time as managing cameras. It is a complete pain, but because there is nothing suitable on the internet for this, I think it's important to try to help you install this. We are getting ready for our next trip, heading to Alabama Hills, Yellowstone, Big Sur, Joshua Tree, Kofa. This month-long trip we take every single year. We are doing that in the van, so please stay tuned for those videos. And I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done and get the Outback Wilderness prepared for storm season because, I mean, it's almost January, and before we get to storm season, I want to be prepared and have that car completely dialed in and everything that I need. So this video, we will be installing those front skid plate and the mid-body skid plate. I'm not exactly sure what they are called, but it is the front skid plate just underneath the front bumper, and then the one that's covering your transmission CVT area. So I'm going to try to do my best that I can to give you guys a good video, and it should be helpful. The link for these skid plates is in the description. I do not get paid for this link, so please click that link. Go check out Rallitek if you're looking for skid plates or pretty much anything else you want for your Subaru Outback Wilderness. Rallitek has it. That's it. Let's hop into getting this install done, and I'm going to take you on that side of the garage and get everything set up. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do before you can get that plastic fake skid plate off the car is you're going to need to take off these 12 clips. And I would recommend you use a metal pry tool. That's kind of looks like that. I don't know how well in focus that is, but this is what I use. I'll put the link in the description from Amazon. They're very, very inexpensive, and you will use these a lot more than you probably think you will, so I would invest in them anyways, especially if you do anything modification related to your car. Once you get all 12 of those clips out, and you really just have to kind of go looking around for them. There's one on each side of the wheel well, so there's one on either side that you'll have to pull out. Then all the rest of them are underneath. And I just kept pulling until I saw, one was connected somewhere, and then I took that off. This will be the last thing that you have to get off. This will be holding your plastic front cover thing on. And I used a 12mm socket. I started with a drill to try to unscrew it because it does have a Phillips head on it. That was stupid. But then I just took my 12mm socket, got that right off. Now I'm going to grab this thing, and this is the reason I hate doing install videos, because there's things strewn everywhere. All right, this is that front cover that I'm talking about. This is the metal piece of sheet metal. It's you could tell that I banged it up pretty good there at some point. Don't know where I was or what I was doing, but this whole piece comes off. Now, I'm gonna have to hop off camera. There's nothing I can do. You're just gonna have to work with me. So what you're gonna need is, this will be the front Rallitek skid plate that I will be installing. And because there's not a great information on the internet, what I did is I just got under there, and you can see where your bolt spots are, where you run your bolt through. I still don't know which bolt it is I'm supposed to be using. You do receive this, and I'm sure they have instructions on the internet. Everyone has instructions on the internet, but just send me a piece of instructions, because I'm using my phone for other things, maybe watching a video, and then I have to bounce back between instructions. I just want a piece of paper instructions. Super easy to do. It doesn't cost that much. Your margins will be fine, so just having instructions is nice. But this bag comes with multiple bolts in it. Different lengths, different sizes, and then I'm going to figure out which one goes where as I start to pull them out. And that's how I'm going to figure this whole thing out. And I will do my best to remember to update that and tell you which ones go where. But you can really just hold this up underneath the vehicle and find which direction it goes, what gets covered where, and then start taking those bolts out. So I'm going to climb under the car, figure out which ones I have to take out one more time, get my impact and everything that I need, and then I will start disassembling this and try to show you as I go. Now, if you guys do not have an impact, I would recommend getting one. If you plan to continuously do work on your vehicle, you can use socket wrenches. That's totally fine. But this Dewalt Impact, I have the 1/2 inch, I have the 3/8, and the 1/4. These things come in handy a lot. Changing tires, putting new wheels on, all of that stuff, doing your own tire rotation. Really, this is the barrier of entry for doing your own tire rotation. And you don't need this, but if you want to do it in 15 minutes versus 45, this is the way to go. So I will be using this. You will not see me with a wrench in my hand. I would recommend getting one of these. I'll put the link in the description. Don't care if you buy it or not, but it makes life a lot easier. Now, let's get under the vehicle. All right, so basically how I figured out where this goes, I mean, it's not rocket science, but you have a big hole so you can get to your oil pan and you can drain your oil out. And there's bolts, and I just kind of pushed this up until I found the bolts that worked. So now that I know I need to take these 2 off in the rear, and there's 2 up front I need to take off, I'm going to get those bolts taken off, and I should be able to put this right on there. I'm going to run back to the back first, the skid plate in the rear, to make sure that if I put this on first, it doesn't impede me putting on the back one, and then we will move to the back or vice versa. Okay, so issue if you have the LP Aventure rock sliders. This aluminum weld that's on here is supposed to be a standoff that allows that longer bolt to fit in there flush and get it snug. Because I have those, the LP Aventure rock sliders hang down and they have a standoff on them already, making this too long, thus making it impossible to get the bolt through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the grinder and I'm going to chop this down a couple of inches so I have enough space, and then I'll be able to put this on. All right, so very simply, I measured from the top of this down towards the skid plate 1.5 inches. Then I grinded it off. I hit it with a file just to deburr everything, make sure I don't have any sharp edges in there that's going to get caught up in those threads. And then that should be enough for me to be able to get this bolt through now. Once I get the bolt through, I just don't want to have a couple of threads on there. I really want it to thread in there tight, and this was the only way that I could do it quickly. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing this unless you have to. In my case, I have no choice, so I'm doing it. But if you do have LP Adventure rock sliders, you're going to run into this. So it's something to take into consideration before buying these. Maybe you just get a bigger bolt. That's more of a pain right now, waiting for a bolt, than to just cut these off, and I'm good to go. So that's the plan. So before I get started, and I really crank these down, I like to make sure that I can get these in all the way to where they bottom out, just so I don't have any issues with cross threading. The last thing you want to do is cross thread and then have to figure out a way to get that fixed. So I just try to tighten them up, get them all the way through those threads, make sure it goes in with minimal effort, and then I'll take them back out and toss the skid plate up and put them back on. That's the ideal situation. Being able to get it threaded all the way in with just your hands to where it bottoms out pretty much, and then you know you're good. This one over here was a little bit tighter. It went in fine. I don't have any issues, but this is the best situation.
Okay. Now I'm going to tighten this one up a little bit up front here on this side. Okay. All right, I've got all the bolts in now, and I did tighten everything down with the wrench that I can't find, just to make sure I was getting enough of that thread in there. And as I tighten further, I'm getting plenty of turns here. So what I did with that standoff definitely helped. If you have to do that, I feel like you'd be just fine to do that. We're gonna roll with it, and hopefully it works out.
Okay, so we have the first one on. It was actually a lot easier, minus than those two standoffs that we had to do. And I'm going to start working on the front one. Now the front one has 4 bolts. They're all the same exact size. I just have to find out exactly where that goes. So I'm gonna get under there, test fit everything up, make sure I know which ones to take out, take those bolts out, put the new bolts in. I have not tightened anything yet, just because I wanna wait until it's all done, make sure everything's centered, it looks clean and it's good, and then I'm gonna tighten everything up with the impact, and we should have this thing wrapped up. So back under the car we go. So for the 2 bolts towards the rear of the vehicle, towards the other skid plate, you are going to need a 12mm socket to get those out. My impact set does not come with a 12, so I had to do it the old-fashioned way. But something up front, I'm going to move you in a way that I hate to do. All right. So this right here, there's one on either side. These are actually in the way. So you're going to need to take these off if you have I don't know about other models, but Subaru Outback Wilderness, you're going to need to get these out of the way so your bolts will fit up through there. Because again, the standoff that comes on the skid plate is basically this distance. It's that depth. So it's either grind those standoffs off or just get this off before you put your new bolts on. There are no bolts under here. We took those off, or those actually, there were none when we did it. So your bolts will fit and thread right into there for your front portion of your skid. So these were not very tight when I took them out. I did not need to use my torque wrench or my impact. I was able to loosen it by hand. So I'm just gonna tighten them back by hand and put some pressure on it, but I don't want to over tighten these bolts and break them or pop that thread. And there were no bolts up here, so again, I'm just gonna tighten them down decently by hand. All right. Every time I come back to this camera, I look more and more disheveled. I have mud in my hair, but it is done. They are done. Would it be a install of anything in your vehicle without cutting your hand off? Let me move my face. There you go. No, it wouldn't. So all in all, it was easy. The 2 front standoffs or 2 rear standoffs on the furthest rear point that if you do have LP Aventure rock sliders, you will have to trim those down just to make sure you get enough thread in there so nothing happens when you're banging your car down the trail. Front one went on really easy. There are the longer bolts for the ones that are rearmost in the vehicle, and the shorter bolts go up front. Everything else is really straightforward. Taking off that front piece of plastic was the only real unknown. Everything else, you just kind of hold it up there until you get it situated. If you have an extra set of hands, somebody who's willing to climb under the car with you, or a lift, that would have been nice. All of those things will make this process easier. It's taken me 2.5 hours to get it done, but that's also filming, and then my wife's working on the van, so I'm out there trying to help her situate some things. So all in all, pretty good. If the video was helpful, I appreciate it. If you would like the video, share it and subscribe, and come along for all of our adventures. We leave here in T-minus 10 days for a month-long trip in the van. First one in the van of this type. We're going to go to some awesome locations, awesome places, and it should be pretty awesome. But sorry for the lighting. I have really no control in my dingy garage, but this is just what it had to be today to actually bring you a true install video. And I think this is the first one I've ever done, and we'll see how it turns out. So I'll see you guys on the next one.